Meat eating cannot explain the evolution of human teeth throughout time. Let me explain. Hello everyone, I'm Tom Zanton, and today we're going to talk about why human teeth are not made for meat eating, why I think they're made to eat cooked root vegetables. Okay, so let's go back a little bit. So there's several million years ago, we shared a common ancestor with chimpanzees and gorillas and a few other apes like that. So at that time, they were eating fruits and leaves, just like chimpanzees do today. So they had similar teeth to chimpanzees. And then there was less forest, so a lot of that last common ancestor, some of them went off onto savanna, grasslands, and then as a result, they started walking on two legs. Their teeth changed. One of the things that changed about their teeth is that their molars got a lot bigger. The back grinding teeth, they got a lot bigger. Some people use this as evidence to say that, hey, those early ancestors probably ate a lot more root vegetables, tough root vegetables that would require a lot more grinding and chewing all day. And I think this makes a lot of sense. I think it's perfectly reasonable. So far we have fruit and leaf eating apes, and then the evolution of human teeth. The molars get bigger. They look more like they would be made to grind food for hours and hours, day after day, chewing hard, raw root vegetables. And then, about 2.5 million years ago, there was a marked reduction in tooth size, going to Homo habilis. Still pretty large. Their jaws and guts were still pretty big. They were still almost certainly eating mostly plants. But their molars were smaller. And, I think the most likely explanation for this is the new species at the time was called Homo habilis, which means basically handyman. They were using a lot more stone tools. They were doing a lot more food processing. Imagine how much less you would have to chew if you took some raw carrots and you cut them into small pieces. Just slice them up and cut them into pieces, and then you started eating them. You would have to chew a lot less, which could explain why their molars could be much smaller. And then, about 2 million years ago, you have Homo erectus, whose teeth and guts were reduced in size. And the explanation for this is there are two explanations that I've usually heard. One is that we started eating meat, and the other, Richard Wrangham, thinks that we started cooking our food. So, taking these two, I don't think it makes sense for us to say that, well, we started eating a lot more meat, which is why we had this reduction in tooth and gut size at the time. And the reason I don't think it makes sense is because the teeth still retained the same general shape. They still looked like they had the same function. The molars were all still grinding teeth. If you look at a canine's teeth, a carnivore's teeth, like pretty much all of their teeth are sharp and pointy. Like, picture like an alligator. Look in your dog's mouth. Look in your cat's mouth. Picture like a lion or a piranha or a shark. All of these animals that consume meat, pretty much any animal that eats meat that has teeth has nothing but sharp teeth throughout their entire mouth. And in fact, dogs have, and probably other carnivores too, they have sharp pointed teeth like their row of molars, it's sharp pointy teeth that actually can cut almost like a scissors. It's like a shearing surface. We obviously don't have that. Homo erectus didn't have that. Um, so I guess I don't know how it makes sense to say, well, we eat a lot of meat, but our teeth got smaller, but they never evolved to be anything like the teeth of other animals that eat meat, which I don't think makes a lot of sense. What I think makes more sense is something more in line with what Richard Wrangham says, where we started eating cooked foods. Now, there's not a lot of good evidence that we were able to create fire at this time, but even without that, there would have been lots of ways, there would have been a few different ways that Homo erectus could have gotten fire. They could have harnessed natural wildfire. There are birds in Australia that can pick up burning sticks and then spread the fire. There's no good reason to assume that Homo erectus wouldn't also have been smart enough to do this. They could have spread fire. It could have partially cooked some of the foods that they found, especially root vegetables. They could have picked up sticks and then made like a little campfire, just not actually creating the fire. There was also some sort of lava flow somewhere in East Africa about 1.8 million years ago, about this time. I don't know how that fits into this, but it's definitely an interesting piece of the puzzle. So the point is, there are plausible explanations, I think, for how they could have gotten some of their food to be cooked foods, and I think it makes a lot of sense with how their teeth were and how our teeth are, because they had the teeth had the same general shape, so they had the same function. They were just, I think if you say, well, the teeth had the same function, but they were eating softer foods, that would explain the reduction in tooth size, but the same general shape. So, I think it makes more sense to say, well, we had fruit and leaf-eating teeth, and then we switched to like big molars that were crushing like raw root vegetables. Like, picture how much you have to chew raw carrots. And then from there, we moved on to cutting a lot of our food processing with Homo habilis. So there was a small reduction in tooth size, still a large gut, still a pretty large jaw, because they were eating mostly plants. And then instead of saying that we switched to eating meat with Homo erectus, and that's why we got smaller teeth, I don't think that makes sense when you consider that they still seemed to have the same general function, the same general shape, and which we retain even today. I think it makes more sense to say that they were able to get softer, partially cooked or cooked root vegetables. And how much do you need to chew cooked carrots versus raw carrots? Not very much. So I think that ties in a whole bunch better with the evolution of human teeth. I think eating a diet of root vegetables, first raw, then cut, then cooked, makes a lot more sense to explain how our teeth look the way they do now, how they looked throughout human evolution. I don't think that eating meat makes a lot of sense when you look at our teeth. Even though, yes, we have these canines, but they're pretty small and pathetic, and they're not very sharp. And 5/8 of the teeth in your mouth are dedicated to crushing and grinding. And when you consider also that we have the most salivary amylase, starch digesting enzyme in our mouths compared to other plant-eating animals, most carnivores have none. And when you consider the fact that most choking incidents are caused by eating meat, it doesn't seem like anything in this general area in your mouth and throat, it doesn't really seem like anything in that area is adapted to eating meat, which is why I don't think eating meat drove human evolution. Obviously, people have done it. People did it for thousands and millions of years, but until I think recently, it happened infrequently enough that it did not drive human evolution. It was just a thing that happened. So I'm sure other people will disagree with me. If you do, feel free to leave a comment, explain why, explain what you think I missed. If you thought this was interesting, You can leave a comment, like, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And as always, remember to eat your root vegetables. Thank you.